Triple E EDC back again with another knife video. This is going to be another collection video. I know a couple of you guys have been asking for a while for me to do a collection update. I'm going to go ahead and do that now in this video. I'm sorry it took me so long to get to it, but I did want to wait until I got a couple of knives in. I had stuff on the way. I actually still have some more stuff on the way that's supposed to come tomorrow and another one on Monday, but I'll get to that in a little bit. In any event, I did want to go ahead and do the collection video. Now, if you guys are excited to see a bunch of different knives, I've got a pretty decent sized collection. I've got everything from Benchmade to Spydercos to Balisongs to fixed blades to higher end stuff like a Shirogorov and a couple of Hinders and some different knives like that. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff as well, so let's go ahead and take a look through the collection. This is going to be a longer video, so those of you guys that are more interested in fixed blades, take note, those will be towards the end. I'm also going to have some more budget knives towards the end, but I'll go ahead and with the bulk of my collection in the beginning for the stuff that I normally carry around most of the time. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. First, we've got the Benchmade Superfreak here. So many of you guys will know this knife. This was a knife that burst on the scene back in, I think, 2019, maybe late 2018. And the Freak was around a little bit before that, but the Superfreak really just improved on every area that was problematic with the Freak. And the handles with the rubber that get caught in your pockets on the original one, that's gone. That was replaced with G10 that has the nice milling over here. It has the red accents, inspired by Deadpool. Who doesn't like that? Nice thin slicey blade made of M4, so it's going to hold an edge, very, very long. The DLC coating on this is held up great. So those of you guys who don't like DLC coating, the DLC coating on this is awesome. And just the blade geometry on this is great. And like I said, thin slicey blade that you don't have to worry about too much because it's made of M4. Great value at under 200 bucks. And I think that most people who have a knife collection, if you want a good user, great user knife, this is that knife, the Benchmade Superfreak. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next knife, which is the Benchmade Griptilian. And this is the DLT exclusive version, and it is not contoured like some of the other versions. It's flat, but it has carbon fiber scales. It's got the gold standoffs here, and it's got M390 steel, as you can see. So and DLC coated. This, I think, also came in a satin version, but I don't know if they're still available. They may all be sold out, or they may have a couple of them still floating around somewhere. But this version of it is actually pretty nice. I've owned everything from the base models in 154cm to one in D2. I've also owned one in S30V, the base model, one in M4 from the custom shop, and I owned one of the gray G10 versions with the sheep's foot blade and the Spidey hole. I owned one of those as well, and I have to say, out of all of those, this one is my favorite. It is pricier than a lot of those other ones, so if flat carbon fiber scales are not your thing, then I would recommend definitely doing some aftermarket, maybe micarta scales or something like that, on perhaps the Griptilians in the custom shop. Definitely check that out. I liked the M4 version that I had, so if you're not going to go for the Superfreak and you want a Griptilian, maybe go for M4 in the custom shop, get some DLC coating on it, and go for some micarta. That's another good equivalent of this knife. Next up, we got the Benchmade Anthem. This is an integral knife. That means it is all one piece of titanium that is milled out, with the exception of the clip, but the knife itself is all one solid piece. They milled out the middle. That means they had to make this spring different in here. As you can see, the spring is a flat spring that goes one direction, whereas most of the other axis lock knives are an omega spring that is basically, coiled around here, so that when you pull it back, or actually it's coiled around this way, I believe, so that when you pull it back, that's where the tension comes from. Here they had to reconfigure it for this knife. I love this thing. It's on bearings, so it gives you this really nice, smooth action. It also gives you a little sound that you don't get from the other, axis lock knives. And I kind of like the sound. It bothered me a little bit at first, but it's grown on me a lot, and you get the sound and the nice smoothness of this. It really grows on you after a while. And I like the size of this handle a little bit better than the 940 because it is a little bit bigger than the 940. So, you know, if you guys want to spend some money, aren't quite up to that Chris Reeve level yet of knives, and I think the Anthem is a great buy on the secondary market. Don't go ahead and pay full price on it. It's going to be pretty expensive on full price, but you can get them for like $200 off retail, or $200 off what the retailers sell them for, not necessarily what Benchmade retails it for, and so it's a great value at that secondary market price. Speaking of the 940, we have the Benchmade 940 I think this is the -2001. This is the titanium version that is to mark the 20th anniversary. It's an S90V, just like the 940-1 is, and the 940-1 obviously comes with carbon fiber scales. These are flat, and they are not milled out with the normal milling that the aluminum scales have, which I thought was an interesting choice. I would have liked to see Benchmade put the milling from the original 940 on there, sort of as an ode to the original, while you have titanium. I can understand it might have been expensive to do that on a titanium knife, but at the price they're charging, these were around $350, I think, $340, $350. I think they're all sold out now. So if you go to them on the secondary market, you're probably paying $400 plus for them. Every once in a while, you can see them in the 300s, and at that price, I think they're worth it. But obviously, if you're not used to paying $300 for a 940, you have to really want titanium in order for that to make sense. So, but it has all the great things that a 940 has. The 940 has a special place in my heart for you guys who have been, watching my channel for a while. You guys know it's not actually the 940, it's the 943. That was my first real premium knife, and so I just have a real love for the Benchmade 940/943 series of knives. So I have a couple of them, and so I'm going to bring another one out while we have this one still in view, and that is the Smoky Mountain Knife Works version. I forgot the model number on here for this one, but this is the red contoured carbon fiber scales, the red infused scales. You can probably see the red there. It has the red thumb studs, the smoke colored standoffs. Let's see if we can get the camera to focus there. The smoke colored standoffs, and it's got M390 steel. We can get the camera to focus. There you go. So M390 steel, and the action on this thing is excellent, just like a 940 should be. And because I love 940s, I obviously don't just have these two. I also have the 943, but this is the 943 serrated version with the black coating. So I think it's the 943 SBK. So this is the original milling I was talking about on the 940 that I would have liked to see on the titanium one. I really, would have loved to see that for sure. I also think that having the original back here would have been a nice touch as well. Obviously, you have standoffs here and flow-through construction, which I think is more of a modern thing, so it definitely makes sense on a 20th anniversary edition. I just like to see those old throwbacks, and it would have been nice to see that on the 940. By the way, I'm sort of throwing this knife under the bus a little bit. I like this thing a lot, so don't. It's just me talking about what I really would have loved to see in a 20th anniversary edition. In any event, the 943, like I said, has a very special place in my heart, and it's not this one that was my first one. This is actually my third 943 SBK. I've lost a couple of other ones in just out of my pocket, I think, or left them in places I shouldn't have left them, and that is what it is. Anyway, let's go ahead and take these knives up. Now, there was one other 940 that I have, or had, and it's technically still in my collection, but it's with Metal Complex right now. That is the 9400 auto version of the 940, the automatic version, and he's going to be doing a review on that. Many of you new viewers or new subscribers probably got over to the channel from Metal Complex based on his unboxing video, but definitely stick around for the 940, for the 9400 review, and when he sends that knife back to me, I'm going to be doing a giveaway on this channel for that 9400 Auto Osborne, so stay tuned for that. Obviously, if you're watching this much later in time, just be aware that I'm referring to after I get it back from Metal Complex. Today is around July 16th, 2020. Next up, we got the Benchmade Bug Out. Benchmade Bug Out. This is the GRY version, and it normally comes with those I guess Ranger, was it the Ranger tan or Coyote tan scales, or whatever color those are. And I replaced those with these green micarta, these OD green micarta scales from Alan Putman. These are fantastic scales. Obviously, if you saw my scale video where I installed these, you saw that my one main criticism was that the pivot rocks back and forth a little bit on it, but I have mostly worked out that issue. I don't really have that issue as much anymore. I think it had to do with a little bit of the fitment in the original scales. In any event, this is an excellent knife, really, really lightweight. This is the perfect summer, gym shorts style knife. If you, wear gym shorts all the time, you want to carry around a knife, this is your knife, no questions asked. The Benchmade Proper. Now this thing gets a little bit of guff from the slip joint community because the walk and talk on it isn't all that great. As you can see, it's sort of more smooth than has real walk and talk on it. Walk and talk, obviously, or for those of you who don't know what walk and talk is, it's the snap that you get from opening to the half stop and opening past to fully, and then opening back to the half stop and then closed. This doesn't necessarily have those snaps and those actions, but that's part of the charm of it, is it's more accessible to the slip joint enthusiast. It's a slip joint that's more accessible, and I really love that. I really love the size of it. The size of it is perfect for a slip joint because it's not huge like a full-size knife, but it's also not so small that you can barely grab it. And the micarta on this is excellent micarta. This is one of my favorite micartas on any knife I own on the Benchmade Proper. It's a little bit waxy, still grippy, and just Benchmade did a great job with this particular micarta. So this does come in both a sheep's foot blade and a clip point like this. I think the clip point on this is sexy as hell, and it also comes in a couple different versions with G10 and carbon fiber. Next up, we have the original SOCP Folder. Now the new one is in Axis lock. The original one, it also has the deep carry clip that you can get on it, and it comes with this clip as well in the new one. But this one is a liner lock because this is the original, and this is an excellent knife. This thing, it is so underrated as a knife for a couple reasons. One is it's 4.5 inches on the blade. It's a big knife. I mean, let's just look at it real quick against the Griptilian just so you can see how big it is. So it's a big knife, but this thing is just a great, it's a great knife because it has the length to do whatever you need. It is light, and the shape and the clip on this thing make it so that you can tuck this behind a belt. So you put this like in your slacks. This is great as a knife with tactical pants or with slacks. If you don't want the clip showing out of one of your pockets, you clip it to the inside waistband of your slacks, and then this sits behind your belt. No one can see it. And then when you do want to draw it out, you use this finger hole here. You slip behind your belt, use the finger hole, and pull it out. It works so well. The clip design here is awesome, and the tip down on this thing is perfect. I've talked before about, even though there is four position place to put the clip on here, tip down is really the only thing that makes sense, because if you were to do tip up, you're going to pull it out and then have to walk up significantly on this knife to open it. I just don't think that's so feasible. So this, having it open and ready to go right here with this thumb disc, I think is perfect. Next up, the Benchmade Infidel. This, a lot of Microtech enthusiasts, and by the way, I love Microtech out the fronts, but Microtech enthusiasts will probably say that the Infidel is an inferior knife. I'm going to wholeheartely disagree with that. This thing is rugged as hell, and I've owned Heretics, I've owned Microtechs, I haven't owned Guardian Tacticals, but I've used them. And this thing is as solid as any of those. By the way, the Guardian Tacticals are really solid. And smooth. But this one, other than the Guardian Tacticals, this probably has the smoothest operation. So for somebody who's not an OTF guy and doesn't want to really fight the tension of that button, while still being, you know, safe so it doesn't deploy when you don't want it to deploy, the Benchmade Infidel it's a great knife for that. It also has, it's pretty ergonomic. It is double-edged, so, you know, make sure it's legal where you are. The biggest criticism I think people have, well, there's two big criticisms I think people have for it. One is the clip just screams that you know, you have an infidel in your pocket. Whoops, I dropped it. That you have an infidel in your pocket, so that's one thing to be aware of. The other thing is that right there. So some of you may have seen these hanging from trucks. You know, people joke about that all the time, but you know, I guess it takes a big man to have a big knife like this, right? That was a bad joke. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the TRM Atom is the next one. This thing might be the most perfect knife, you know, around or in or around or under 200 bucks. Okay, this thing is, it's skinny, it is thin, it is slicey. It is, the blade shape and blade geometry is awesome. The fit and finish is impeccable. Well, there is one issue with finish, I should say, and that is right here. You see some of these corners right here are sharp, so that when you come down, you know, and close it, you feel it a little bit right here. So I should say the fit is impeccable. The finish is very good, but could be a little bit improved. But what's so special about this, other than, you know, well, it's just a culmination of everything good in knife making, but it also it has this very fluid, soft, silky, smooth action because the washers are extremely polished. It's a phosphor bronze washer knife, and the washers are just very, very high polished, so it glides. This thing glides. It feels like, you know, that hydraulic glassy feel that you get from a Chris Reeve at around the $200 mark. Just amazing. I've heard they're coming out with possibly a titanium version of this. If they do, that would be awesome, and I will definitely be getting one. But this thing is great. The micarta on here is fairly nice. It's not the best micarta I've ever had, but it's definitely high quality up there. And it just has, you know, everything about it's great. Deep carry clip that is just, it's very usable and accessible. Very slim profile, like I said, and very ergonomic with a choil that doesn't get in the way. The choil right here, it's not like it's a huge choil, so that when you're sitting back on it, there's a lot of space between your finger and the blade, like some other knives. It's just great. Let's go ahead and look at some Spydercos. We got the Paramilitary 2. These are some custom scales by Eric Shepard from Shepard CC, and he's a guy who makes scales for a lot of Spyderco models and maybe some other knives on Instagram. These are Lightning Strike carbon fiber. This is the, I believe it's the DLT exclusive 20 CV blade on the Paramilitary 2. Just a good classic, fantastic knife that is, I think it's a little past its prime, if I'm being honest, and I may get some hate from the PM2 crowd for that. But I think that within Spyderco's own lineup, they have some better knives now, and I'll get to those in a minute. But it's still an excellent knife, and everyone should have one of these in their collection for sure. Little Lynch clip. I believe it's a Lynch clip on there. Spyderco Para 3. This is the Maximate version. These are the original scales on the Maximate version, but I do have a Lynch clip on here as well, Lynch titanium clip. I believe that's a stonewash clip, and you know, everyone needs one of these as well. I never thought I'd say that, if I'm being honest, because I am a large knife junkie. I like large knives. Small knives are not usually my thing, and so I didn't think I'd like the Bug Out before I got it, and I love the Bug Out. And I didn't think I would like the Para 3 before I got it, and I love the Para 3. I think this is actually a better size for fidgeting than the Paramilitary 2. It really is. I'm shocked that I'm saying it, but it really is. And the Maximum version of this is just, it's a laser through whatever you're cutting through. The edge retention on it is crazy. I mean, this thing is awesome. So, you know, if you're looking for a Para 3, I definitely recommend the Maximum Para 3, and you definitely should get a Para 3. The one thing I'll say about a Para 3 is I've had the Para 3 lightweight before. I do not recommend the Para 3 lightweight. Some of you guys will hate me for that. There are a lot of people who do like the Para 3 lightweight. I thought it felt like cheap crap, just being honest. So, you know, I much enjoy the Delica and the Endura more than the Para 3 lightweight. Sorry, guys. Now, next knife, the Spyderco Manix 2. This is the texture carbon fiber version with S90V, and it has the blue backspacer. This is also a blue backspacer from Shepherd Customs, but these scales are original to the knife. This thing, the Manix 2, is, in my opinion, the Manix 2 is better than both the Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3. I may do a video on this, on the Paramilitary 2, the Para 3, the Manix, and the Shaman. At some point, I haven't done one yet. Other people have done them, so I don't feel compelled that I need to do them right away, but maybe something to keep an eye out for in the future. The Manix 2, in my opinion, is just, it's an amazing knife. The ball bearing lock here is, not only is it a strong lock, but it's very fidgety. I think it's even more fidgety than the compression lock, if you're wanting my opinion. I know that's probably not a popular opinion. Most people love the compression lock, but I think on most knives, I think on most knives the compression lock isn't as good as you would think. On some knives it is better than the ball bearing lock. It just depends on the knife geometry and how your hand falls on it. For those of you wondering, I have large glove size hands, and this thing is an ergonomic masterpiece. Show the knife one more time before I put it away. Next up, we've got the Spyderco Shaman. This is the Cru-Wear Shaman. Now this is the best of the bunch. So obviously you may watch that video that I was talking about, the PM2, Para 3, Manix, and Shaman at some point. I'm telling you right now, if I had to rank them, Shaman, Manix, Para 3, Paramilitary 2. That's just me. But that being said, I would explain the reasons for it in such a video. But as far as this knife goes, this is just great. It's a great fidgety knife. It's contoured scales, fits great in the hand. I've owned multiple versions of this knife. I've owned the 4V version from St. Nick's. I've owned the S90V Sprint version with the carbon fiber scales. In my opinion, this is the best version, the Cru-Wear and the Micarta. But, and I know they're coming out with a Z-Wear one soon. You guys just snap it up if you can. But the ergonomics on this are just insane. They're insanely good, and every single position on this knife feels excellent in the hand. Really great in the hand. Great user. Nice, decently thick stock, but not too thick. Comes down to a pretty fine edge because the blade is so tall, while having a grind that starts here and goes all the way down. It can be used as a front flipper. This right here can be used as a front flipper, and you can also go ahead and Spidey flick this. You can use the compression lock, to fidget with. This is a great knife all around. I love it. Obviously, the big complaint on this is that the knife doesn't close if your finger is there near the compression lock, because the bottom of the choil sticks out into the compression lock. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal. So if you're thinking about a Shaman and that's holding you up, don't let that hold you up, because it's not that big of a deal, and the knife is amazing despite that. Next up is the Spyderco Coochie. Now this knife is a very underrated knife. This thing it got a little bit of play on YouTube at some point, and then just sort of faded away. Nobody talks about it anymore. This thing's awesome. It is one of my favorite summer carries next to the Bug Out, and it's extremely light. It's a Taichung Taiwan knife, so it has this nice carbon fiber on here. I can't remember if it's the carbon fiber laminate, but I think it might be. But and the carbon fiber laminate is basically carbon fiber on top of G10. Honestly, Spyderco's carbon fiber laminate is pretty good. I was hesitant to deal with that at first, but it's pretty good. The fit and finish on this is awesome, and this wheel is just a pleasure to use. So you really, I've explained this on a couple of videos where the kinetic energy, you know, you have massive follow through. I just botched that a little bit, but you have massive follow through on this knife as far as you know, how long you get to push the flipper. So if you look at another flipper knife, you know, you might have a flipper out here and you push it down here and your finger stops and the kinetic energy stops. So here, you know, you're rolling it and you're getting the knife basically all the way out to here before the kinetic energy stops, almost all the way open, right? So you know, you're really getting a lot of force behind it. And then the compression lock here is awesome as well. I think it's good on this knife, despite the fact that you do not have very good access. The wire clip works on this knife as well, and I think it's just, you know, an overall useful knife. For it's also pretty slender. Got the Spyderco Meerkat. This is the SUS 410 and HAP 40 version. This is a sprint run, and kind of an interesting knife. Has a sliding scale. Push this down in order to close it, and you can just open it normally, and the scale will move as you do that. The ergonomics on this for a small knife are excellent. You see every finger hits where it's supposed to, and it really feels good in the hand. If you are into small knives, and you part of why you don't like small knives sometimes is that the ergonomics are bad, check this thing out. This thing is awesome for ergonomics. I did a video recently comparing it to the Dragonfly, and I will tell you that this thing is the better knife, in my opinion, for somebody who isn't a small knife person. My biggest complaint was the ergonomics. See that video for why. Next up, the Protec Invictus. Let's see that again, because I just love the way these things hit. This thing is a tank. It is a tank, and if you are a 940 fan, and you like the way the 940 carries and being a nice slim knife and just something you can beat on and abuse and nice and, you know, not too thin behind the edge that you're going to break your blade, but still thick enough that, you know, you can horse it around. This is the automatic. I wouldn't say it's the automatic version of it because you have the 9400 Osborne. You also have the Benchmade Mediator, but this thing is sort of an upgraded automatic version of it because it fills the hand more. As you can see, it fills the hand more. It's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit chunkier from a height standpoint, and it also just has this spear point here, which is really a strong. So this thing has a very strong tip. The blade here is thin enough to use for most tasks, but thick enough that it's not going anywhere, and you can really horse the hell out of this thing. I like the Invictus a lot. Another Protec, the Protec Magic II. This thing is a knife that did not get the respect it deserved from the knife community. This is an excellent ergonomic knife. Fits great in the hand. The opening mechanism is not just a gimmick. What the opening mechanism does is you slide this scale this way, so you can see I'm going to push it and boom, right? So you're gonna see the scale raise up right there. That's how you open it. That's how you close it. It can be done one-handed. A lot of YouTubers complained it couldn't be done one-handed. I mean, you can see for me here, it's not really a problem to do it one-handed, but it's just it flies out so well. You can see it's well used here. It flies out so well. The ergonomics on this thing are awesome, and I've shown this up against the Spidey Chef. This blade shape is basically the same blade shape as the Spidey Chef. So if you guys like the Spidey Chef and you like automatics, check this knife out. It's not necessarily the same purpose of being, you know, rust proof, but this thing is excellent. Has the same blade shape, and 154 cm is a knife that is stainless enough to do for most of those duties. Just keep in mind there's other steel parts in there. Next up is the Kershaw Bareknuckle. This thing is a knife that I held off getting for a long time. I just didn't think I'd be that into it, and let me tell you, I was wrong. When this thing came to me, though, the action on it wasn't that great. I did have to disassemble it in order to get the action to be where I wanted on this, but now the action is fairly fall-shutty, and you know, especially when I oil it. But this thing is great ergonomically, fits well in the hand. I wish it was a little bit thicker in the handle back here, but other than that, ergonomically kind of a beast. The blade shape is so useful for so many different tasks. It has sort of this this curve here, but it gives you this false sense of like an S curve, that there's sort of like an S here. There's not, but it just, you know, it feels like it bites into things better than some other knives that I have. It's sort of a weird sheep's footy shape, but it works so well. It has a subframe lock, so if you guys like that, you know, it's a lock that's surrounded in some controversy having to do with Microtech. You guys can look it up on the internet if you want. It was a ZT and Microtech thing. Kershaw's the same company as ZT, but this is the version in CPM 20 CV. There are some versions. I think the original version was 14C28N, which is also a great steel, but the difference in price is not so big that I would recommend getting the 14C28N one. I actually think if you're going to buy one, you should buy, excuse me, this version in 20CV. I'm not sure if it's still on sale, but it's normally about $100, and every once in a while it goes on sale for about $80. When it's $80, you cannot beat this deal. Next up is the ZT 0452 WBW, which is the white black wash. White refers to the white carbon fiber, black wash refers to the black wash on the blade, and this is a Sinkovich design. This thing was I think Nick Shabazz sort of made this knife into, you know, sort of a craze a little bit in the knife community, because it was the one big knife that he liked, other than the Norseman, and you know, after a while, it sort of faded away. But this thing is great. The shape reminds me a lot of a steak knife, so or a lot of other drop point fixed blades. So it really just has a lot of utility in the shape here, and it's very, very useful all around. Also very light for how long it is. This thing will snap out with authority because of how big the blade is, and the detent on it is pretty good. I do have to say I like this blade quite a bit. The steel on this is S35VN for the sprint run. I think the original version may have been 20 CV, but definitely double check the stats on that. Next up is the ZT 0301. This thing is, I think the 0302 is the Gibbs knife, right? Some of you guys can correct me on that, but this thing was made very popular, you know, especially with NCIS, and it's a tank. It really is a tank. This thing is, it feels so militaristic in your hand. It's crazy because of how tanky it is. The assist on it is assisted. The assist on it is actually enjoyable, which is sort of weird saying because I'm not really an assist knife guy, but because of how big the blade is and how rugged everything else is on here, it kind of feels like it belongs on the knife. Kind of weird that I said that, but it is the way it is. The steel on this, I think, is S30V, which at the time that this was made was super steel, and it gives access to the pivot via basically a nut, and I love that touch. It makes it look pretty rugged. But overall, this is quite an interesting knife. The only thing is it's a recurved blade, so it's a little bit annoying to sharpen. Next up is the ZT0308, which is one of the successor knives to that 0300 lineup. And this thing just has perfect drop shut action. I mean, this thing is boom. You know, I had my finger on the lock bar a little bit for that too. This thing just drops shut so smooth, and it is on bearings, as you can see. This is 20 CV steel. It gives you that nice thick handle. And by the way, this fixes some of the ergonomic problems that were present on the ZT0301. The The knife felt a little weird, I guess, towards the front on the 0301, like it was missing a little bit of heft over here. This solves that, so that's definitely good. This is an LMF micarta scale that's on here. It originally comes with a Coyote Tan G10 scale, but I really like these LMF scales. If you guys like these LMF scales, they have G10 versions, micarta, both in OD green, natural, and black canvas micarta. Those are available on USA Made Blade, I think for the same price, with the original scale included, for the same price as if you just buy a regular ZT at a different retailer. So I'm not affiliated with USA Made Blade. I just think it's a great deal. I want to point out a great deal when I can. I'm not sure how long that deal will be around, so definitely check that out. They also do anodizing included in the price too, for certain designs that are pre-made on their website. Next up, we have the Cold Steel Black Talon 2. This is a vicious knife. This thing is a self-defense knife through and through. Serrated chisel grind. As you can see, it's sharpened only on one side. Ergonomics are excellent on this. A very, very thin knife, oddly enough. As big as this thing is, it's actually really thin in the pocket. Let me see if I can show you a comparison to the Benchmade Bug Out and how thin it is. So it's basically as thin as a Bug Out, the scales. So that's pretty impressive. And this has the Cold Steel Triad lock here, and it also has this thumb plate. This thumb plate does act as a wave feature depending on how your pockets are, so it's a good thing to have in here. And this thing will ruin someone's day, ruin someone's night, ruin someone's year, ruin someone's life if dealt with the wrong way. So be careful with this thing. Very, very sick knife. Next up is the Microtech Socom Elite. The Microtech Socom Elite is just one of the best utility knives on the market. What I mean by utility knife is this thing can be used for everything. Everything. So some of these knives I wouldn't use for certain tasks. Don't want to horse around a knife with a blade that's too thin. Don't want to, you know, maybe some blades aren't big enough. Maybe some blades just don't have the right handle shape or grip. This thing is just a beast that can do anything. And, you know, it's great. It's aluminum. For the price, I don't mind that it's aluminum. A lot of people would rather see titanium in this price range. Fine, but the craftsmanship on this is great. This is 204p. They use M390 20CV and 204p in their knives. They also have a couple other steels that they use. I think they've done this in LMAX before and some other steels as well. So just double check the steel before you buy and get the steel that you want. But this comes in, I think this comes in full DLC, DLC with the flats taken away. It comes in apocalyptic finish, which is like a stonewash finish. Then it comes in a satin finish as well. This is on bearings, has very, very drop-shutty bearing action on here. This is just excellent, excellent knife. This comes in both a manual and a thumb stud version. I have a video demonstrating the difference between the two. Definitely check out that video. Obviously the thumb stud one was my pick because I don't have the automatic anymore, but I did explain who the automatic I thought was for and who the thumb stud one I thought was for, and why I like the thumb stud one better for me. All right, next up we have the Freeman Knives 451 button lock. This thing is so sick. So you have the scalloped edges right here. This comes in a couple different versions. They have the D2 version is the base one. Comes in, I think there's G10 versions, carbon fiber versions. I think there's also aluminum versions. This is a titanium version, sort of a higher end. It also is S45 VN. This was the second knife on the market with S45 VN, I think. It might have even been the first to be like a popular folding knife on the market. Spyderco's had put out the PM2 in that, but I wasn't able to decipher which was first, this or that one. But one of the first in the market with the brand new steel. Obviously comes with the American flag on here on this version. There are different engravings on some of the different versions. There's also a plain handle version, but you know, the button lock here is just so fun. Anyone who's had a knife with a button lock on it knows what I'm talking about. You can use the button lock to deploy it out. You can deploy it back. You can, thumb flip it out, or you can use the flipper to flip it out, and then use the button lock to get it back. You can even Spidey flick this thing, and you can thumb flick this thing. These indentations right here on both sides are actually indentations in the actual metal. I don't know if you can see that. Therefore, you can use them as if it was a hole there and get some decent purchase on there. It does come with this lanyard. Not usually a lanyard guy, but when a knife comes with a lanyard, I'll sometimes leave it on. This is the Snex Buster, the Hoback Snex Buster. Excuse me, the Mini Buster just came out for Wii. I didn't get one of the Mini Busters because I'm just very smitten by the full-size Buster. I love Wharncliffe blades. You guys who know me know that I love, love, love Wharncliffe blades, and this is just a really, really nice in hand. The milling on here is just a demonstration of knife making prowess. It's really, really beautiful, all the milling that's on here. As you can see, they milled the pocket clip out. Just really, really beautiful all around. And you get this nice Wharncliffe blade, great action on here. What's not to love? I like the stonewash version. Whoops, I hit the camera there. Big knife. It comes in both a, not both, but it comes in a DLC version and an apocalyptic DLC version, basically a stonewashed DLC version, and this stonewashed titanium version. This is the ZT0392 WC Purple Black. So obviously you can tell where the purple and black came from in that name. The WC is the Wharncliffe, and this is the 0392, which is the ZT's version of the Hinderer Eclipse, which is very, very successful Hinderer knife. What that means, because it's a factory custom from ZT, is that it has all of the Hinderer hardware on it. So this is actual Hinderer hardware, and you can see that here with the Hinderer style clip and the Hinderer spanner bit and filler tabs as well. Beautiful knife, beautiful action on this thing. And this was on bearings. So now you have the new generation tri-way pivot Eclipse, but for a while, one of the reasons this was so popular is this was the only version of this that you could get, or not the only version, the 0392 series, because there's a bunch of different knives in the 0392 series, was the only versions of the knife that you could get in bearings. Obviously that they're not being made anymore, the 0392s, and they've become quite valuable. I recently sold off an 0392 WC, which was a different version of that same knife, but not part of the collection anymore. This is the Hinderer Ultratech. This is the Battlefield pickup version, and I have to say the craftsmanship on this is great. It's meant to look like it's worn and beat up. It's serialized, has this nice Battlefield pickup, has this, sort of working finish, but battle green finish on here that's scuffed up. I like this a lot. The action on here is great with the tri-way pivot. I have this on bearings right now. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful action on this. You can Spidey flick this with these indentations over here, just like the Freeman. You can thumb roll it as well. Whoops, if I can get my thumb in here, but the thumb rolling is not as easy. I know it's a little bit harder on the camera, guys, but I can, trust me when I say I can do it, because I can Spidey flick it. You can probably tell that I can do that as well. So one of the great things about this is that the backspacer is the tool that you need for both size screws. It fits the small end of this, fits the small screws, and the larger end of this fits the larger screws. So very, very cool. All you do is you put the spring in the back, put it down, and bam, it's a backspacer again. Beautiful concept. This knife is a knife that's leaving my collection to be with a viewer, actually. Dom Bond, I've been promising you for some time that I would let you buy this, and you have now bought it. So this will be on its way out of my collection. But this is a very special version of the Hinderer XM24. This is the version, it's a stonewash version, stonewash blade, I think, with the stonewash finish over here. but it also has the, and this is the Spanto blade, but this scale is a custom scale. Now I'm sending him both this scale and the other scale. This scale is a titanium scale. I believe it's one of a kind by Midnight Sun Industries, and there's just beautiful milling on that scale. Look at that. I just love this version of it. I didn't think I'd ever sell it, to be honest, but you know, when I have a viewer who just really wants something, if you guys ever see something in my collection that you really want to have, I'm not promising I'm going to give it to you or sell it to you, but you know, if you want to reach out and ask if something's for sale, I'm always willing to answer. You know, or if you repeatedly ask me for it, and you know, so if I ever go to sell it, I'll contact you first. I mean, that I appreciate my viewers in that way. So, you know, this is tri-way pivot also. Beautiful fall shut action on this. Just great bearing action. This heavy blade on it, you know, gives it this, makes it just silky smooth as it closes. Love this knife. Next up is two different versions of the XM18. The first is a working finish Wharncliffe version. It's a no-choil Wharncliffe. And so I've got the working finish titanium scale on it as well, which is an aftermarket scale, but it is from Hinderer. This is the Hinderer version of the scale. And this thing, I love the XM18. This is one of my favorite knives ever, the XM18. And the Wharncliffe version of it is just, I love Wharncliffe knives. So this may be my favorite version of it. And I think, you know, DLT hit a home run with this one, this exclusive. But yeah, as you can see, great knife. This is a tri-way pivot as well. Fits perfectly in the hand, hits everywhere where it needs to hit. And I just love this knife. Another XM18, this has an RC Blade Works micarta scale on it. This is a vintage version, so the normal version is textured walnut on the scale. But I love this color, this battle green that's on the back of these vintage ones, and they're all serialized like this. It's great. It has this 01 tool steel that has actually worked out pretty well. I was a little bit skeptical of the 01 at first. I live in Houston, which is, you know, pretty, you know, there's a lot of moisture in the air. I was worried it would rust, but the parkerized finish on this thing has been great, and I really love this knife. Next up, we've got a couple of Medfords. We've got the Medford Slim Midi. This is a surprisingly good EDC knife from Medford. Medford is not a company I thought it would be giving us EDC knives, but this thing is surprisingly good. Really enjoy this. The ergonomics on it are great. The hollow grind is really thin and slicey. You can see the stock on it is very thin. The action on it is really nice as well. And you know, Medford has phosphor bronze washers, so it's not like a drop shut action, but it is, you know, you can Spidey flick it, you can open thumb studs, you know, it's got a great ergos on here. Like I said, like the Fullers, and the hollow grind on here, it's just so thin behind the edge and so slicey. This thing is a laser through anything. Like this knife a lot. I did have two versions of this knife, and neither one of them had tight retention on the pocket clip. Just a note. This is the Medford Infraction. This thing is a thick chunk of an EDC knife. Very thick knife, but you know, nice size overall for EDC. It is very nice to have, you know, a oops, I did that. Like something you can Spidey flick or thumb roll out. This is not meant to be a flipper because it is actually the place that you contact the blade, but it actually does act as one if you want to use it as a flipper. So very nice. A lot of people do use it as a flipper, and the ergos on this are pretty good. This also is a hollow grind, but a little bit shallower than the other one. This is a hollow grind as well, but this is the Big Daddy, the Medford Marauder, full-size Marauder, full thickness. This thing is butter now that it's broken in. It just, you can see it fall, absolute butter. The blade is very heavy, so it just comes down when you want it to. It's really thick and chunky. You feel it in your pocket for sure, no question whatsoever, but and you definitely make a statement when you pull this thing out. but it's a joy to carry. If you like big knives, this thing, you need to have a Medford Marauder, full-size Marauder in your life if you like big knives. If you appreciate thick, titanium, a lot of people like the Praetorian. I think the Praetorian's a little impractical. Yes, and that's coming from a guy who carries this around. But this, the Medford Marauder, I think is excellent. Next up is the Chris Reeve Inkosi. This is the Inkosi with natural micarta. What can I say about Chris Reeve other than to say, if you buy a Chris Reeve knife, just know everything is going to be perfect. Everything on the knife is going to be perfect. That means fit and finish, perfect fit and finish. The warranty is excellent. Just don't, mod the knife if you want to keep the warranty intact. But this thing is so solid. I thought this was going to be sort of like a dainty gentleman's knife. This thing is made to work. It's very, very, that's the same is true for the Sebenza and the Umnumzaan. They're made to work. They are not made to sit on a shelf, to sit in your pocket and do nothing. They're made to work. All their knives are S35VN for the most part, or at least the ones you're gonna buy nowadays. And you've got a slight hollow grind on here. Everything is very, very nicely done on this. My biggest criticism, I think a lot of people have the same criticism, is these thumb studs are uncomfortable, and it's about time they change them. I think Chris Reeves is being a little stubborn, clinging to tradition on this, but overall I think that if they're willing to change some of the designs, like the new 31s that came out, they should be willing to change the thumb studs as well. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this knife because it's very similar to the Inkosi, but this is the Sebenza 21 in Damascus. Beautiful ladder Damascus here, as you can see. Just look at that ladder Damascus, absolutely gorgeous. You can see it on both sides of the knife here. As you can see, the thumb stud only comes on one side of the knife, but it is that beautiful bronze color. This is a polished, these are polished over here. The titanium is polished, Macassar ebony wood, and then on the back side, on the lock bar, is the only area that's unpolished because of the fact that I guess it's treated. They keep it unpolished, and they have the pocket clip to match. But obviously I haven't taken off the lanyard. Overall, this is beautiful, beautiful gentleman's folder. Very happy to have this in the collection. I did call it a gentleman's folder because the Damascus version is not something I'd horse around like the other. Like if I had the original version of the Sebenza, I would horse that around like nobody's business because it can take it. And I'm sure this could take it too. But who wants to damage a blade as beautiful as this? By the way, you guys who are new to my channel, I gave away this exact knife, or an exact duplicate version of this knife on my 1,000 subscriber giveaway. If you're new to this channel and you're just checking this video out, you need to subscribe because I give away some damn good knives on this channel fairly often. Next up is the GEC oilfield jack. This is a slip joint. Beautiful, beautiful slip joint. And this is two knives on here. Micarta. Love the crest here, or logo. And the micarta on here is really, really nice. Probably needs to be oiled a little bit, but it's natural micarta. And the walk and talk on this one, we talked about the walk and talk on the Benchmade. You can just hear it. Right? That's walk and talk. Next up, I have the Knives Roxy 4. Now this is the prototype, actually. As you can see, let's see, prototype right there. This is the prototype. So I had both the production version and the prototype version. I decided not to keep both just because I need to constantly rotate knives out. But I love this knife. If you guys, I did a video on this asking if this is better than the Yojimbo, and I believe it is better than the Yojimbo as far as a utility Wharncliffe blade. But that being said, I have not, since the Yojimbo has come out, I've not had a chance to compare it, to get one in my hands or compare it to this. I would love to do that one day. But other than that, just The flame titanium on here is awesome, guys. The action is on ceramic bearings is awesome on this, and the choil's great. Really, so many great things about this knife. Next up is the Berg Blades Iron Wolf. This is quite possibly my favorite, or close to one of my favorite knives in my entire collection. It was really the first nice knife I bought, you know, above $200, and but this thing is, and then so there might be a little bit of sentimental value there, but it kicks so hard when you pull it out, right? And it's just drop shot completely every time, so silky smooth. It has stonewashed titanium, which I love. I think you can see in a lot of my knives I like the stonewashed titanium. And it's got micarta. You can see in a lot of knives I like micarta. So it's got the best of both worlds, and it is just a beastly good knife, and love carrying this thing around. This is made by WE Knives, by the way. It's a Berg Blades knife, but the manufacturing is by WE Knives. Same thing goes for this knife, the Berg Blade Slim. This is a heavily modified version of the Berg Blade Slim. This is titanium here, two different types of titanium. I think this is DLC titanium and stonewashed titanium. This is an acid finish on the blade here, but this is the Berg Blades Golem. This was like the first knife I think he had produced with WE, and this thing is a monster. As you can see, it's like carrying around a little hatchet or butcher blade with you. Big stubby knife. This is the larger version of the Berg Blade Slim, which is a pretty popular knife, and people forget about the Golem, but it is quite a nice knife, I do have to say. This is the Shirogorov F95NL. I have done a video comparing this to the F3, and because I had an F3 and I ended up keeping this. Whoops, I hit the camera again. But this knife, if you have never held a Shirogorov, it's so silky smooth when it shuts. So silky smooth. It's hard to describe just how smooth it is, because it's not like fall shut, completely fall shut like a Northman. But it's just like, it's on a pillow all the way down. It's so nice. And if you never get the chance to own one, at least try to get one in your hands. These things are awesome. The blade geometry on it is great. Very nice flat grind here. This is Elmax, but they make, you know, these in many different steels. I think, you know, they've made this in Vanax, which is, you know, the new trend. But they've been making, you know, with Vanax for a while. Love, love, love this knife. Now for a couple of bell songs. I've got another stonewashed titanium knife, the Hinder Nieves, and this is a pretty nice knife. I did a video on the flippability of this knife. I do need to put out another video revising some of those statements, because I wasn't really into flipping as much into flipping as I am now. It's not as good of a flipper as some of the other knives on the market, but still pretty decent. It's just a great. It's a great feeling knife. It's well made. It may not be the best flipper on the market, but it is a well-made knife, no doubt. Hinderer definitely knows what they're doing. You get the filler tabs here. The latch could be improved a little bit, and these tang. I forgot what these called, these wings on the tang. It's escaping me right now, but they will pinch you. Now, this is the first version of the Nieves that came out. I believe they fixed this on later models, but just something to keep in mind. Next up, we have the Alpha Beast Channel Beast. This is Channel Beast, meaning that it's one solid piece of titanium here, one solid piece of titanium here. It's basically an integral butterfly knife. You saw the Integral Anthem. This is an integral butterfly knife, and you see the blade shape, that, you know, clip point buoy blade shape is it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. The construction of this is great. The balance on this is awesome. The flippability on this is great. The grip that you get on the handles as you're doing, you know, tricks is awesome. The latch itself, even though it gets in the way sometimes, is designed in such a way that when it does get in the way, it usually will knock itself off, meaning, you know, as you can see, when it closes, it just knocks itself off. So usually the latch isn't really that much of a problem. I know that they make a latch-less version now, and they also, a lot of people just remove the latch. But the Channel Beast is just, it is what its name is. It's a beast. It's a beast of a good knife. It's a beast in every good way that you could possibly say about it. Next up is the Benchmade 87. Now, I still got to get my hands on an 85. I am excited for the 85, but the Benchmade 87 is an awesome, awesome knife, and it actually is more flippable than you think, but just be aware that these are rectangular handles instead of square handles, so you will feel some of the difference as you're flipping around and doing some tricks. And the blade on it is actually pretty large, as you can see. You know, but this Wharncliffe, it's an aggressive-looking Wharncliffe. It really, really is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, and I love this latch. I mean, people, you know, talk about the magnetic latch and say that it throws off the balance a little bit. I don't care. I don't care because it's so cool. I really don't. What sucks about this knife is the sheath, though. The sheath that comes with is garbage. You know, I don't like these sheaths at all. I know you can put some Velcro through them, tie them to your belt, whatever. Get an aftermarket sheath, you know, Kydex, something like that would be much better. Okay, I think that does it for one case of my knives. Let's look at the other case, and let's get into some of the budget knives. So we've got the CJRB Agave. This is aluminum, in aluminum. This knife is, I'm not sure if it's staying in the collection, but it's very cool, very interesting. I may use it as a giveaway knife at some point, but I do have it for now. I'll be reviewing it. It has a very nice blade shape, a little bit reminiscent of the bare knuckle. The knife overall is a little bit reminiscent of the bare knuckle. Let's go ahead and take a look at the two. So you can see, yeah, I may do a comparison between these two, because this is about half the price of this, and, you know, it's just something to take note of. But this knife is very, very interesting. The ergonomics on this, I think, are not quite as good as the bare knuckle, but overall this is very, very smooth action on bearings. Aluminum knife, just like the bare knuckle's aluminum, and you know, kind of a cool knife. We have the Spyderco Tenacious, just because I had to review one. I had to see where, I never owned one before. I had to see where they are in the market, and, you know, how are they performing against other knives. I do have plenty of thoughts on this thing. I think it's, you know, it's decent, and I could see how it was, you know, a beast of a knife to have on the market in the budget realm at around 50 bucks years ago. A little spoiler, I don't think it's priced well now. Excuse me, it's still usable, but I don't think it's priced as well as it could be, especially given what else is out there on the market. But I would encourage you to watch an upcoming video that I'm going to release probably within the next few weeks, where I talk about exactly where I think this fits in the market today, and which knives I think are better than it today. The Civivi Backlash, this is the carbon fiber version. I think this is the best version of the Backlash. This is one of the, it's probably my second favorite Civivi knife. Civivi makes a lot of different models. They have a lot of great models, and this is probably my second favorite model of the Civivi knives. You know, it's on bearings. The knife itself has great action. The D10 is great. You can hear it, you know, really fly out of there. And it's very thin and slicey behind the edge. I think Nieves Knives measured it. It was like 15 thousandths behind the edge. Very, very slicey. Very good. Next up is the Civivi McKenna front flipper. This thing is a little bit smaller than I normally like to carry, and I thought I'd hate it at first because it's so small, but I like it a lot more than I thought I would. I will do a separate review on this as well, but I'm pleasantly surprised by this knife, I have to say. Still a little small for me, but very pleasantly surprised. I'm gonna go a little faster with some of these budget knives, because we still got plenty of knives to get to. This is the Civivi Shredder. This knife is great. Very, very large knife for a very large budget knife. Extremely textured G10. You can probably hear that G10. Extremely textured G10. It's two-tone there. You've got the blue and the texturing here. You can use the flipper tab. You can go ahead and Spidey flick it. Spidey flicks very, very well. You can thumb roll it out. That hole is very, very accessible on this model. I think it's attractive overall and gets nice and thin and slicey behind the blade, just like the backlash. Great, great model. Another model from Civivi is the Civivi Dogma. And by the way, I'm going to be doing a video comparing a lot of the different Civivi models. So if you're a Civivi, been contemplating a Civivi knife, didn't know what model to get, stay tuned. So this is also very slicey behind the edge. This is Civivi Dogma. It's a new design. It actually is quite similar. It's sort of like a blend between the Civivi Shredder and the Civivi Backlash. As you can see, it's sort of a blend between the two and a little bit scaled down in size. Very, very interesting knife. The window here is not as accessible as the Shredder. I would like it to see it a little bit more accessible, maybe on a future version of it, but overall, I'm pretty pleased with this knife as well, especially for the money. This is the CJRB Kicker. This knife is currently on a giveaway. If you want to go check out one of the recent videos on my channel, this knife is currently on giveaway. Definitely check that out and respond. That giveaway is ending. Well, actually, I think it ended tonight, so I'm sorry. It's currently on giveaway, but I think it ended tonight. Don't worry, guys. I'll get another giveaway knife up soon. Sorry about that. But I'll go ahead and do the drawing probably tonight after I'm done recording this video. And, appreciate you guys bearing with me. But this recoil lock I did a separate video on, and I am not as impressed as the Axis lock by this mechanism. But it's an interesting mechanism. The more I get to use it, I appreciate it a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think it just fails to do what it set out to do, and what that is to be a good alternative to the Axis lock. This is the CRKT LCK. This thing is probably my favorite lightweight carry budget knife, because it's LCK, I think, means light carry knife. It really is a light carry knife for the size. It has stainless steel liners. Despite the stainless steel liners, it's very, very light. The hollow grind on here leaves a extremely thin edge. I think this one's also about 15 thousandths behind the edge, despite being, having almost no blade height. The blade stock is like this. You see the paint, it is a budget knife, so the paint does come off a little bit on the stainless steel liners. That is to be expected, as you can see here. I think it's a plastic backspacer, I should say. These are plastic handles, but it's got a nice deep carry clip. For $27, I think is what it goes for. Great value. Speaking of great value, knife I was really surprised by is a Kershaw Thistle. I'll be doing a separate review on this also very soon. I got this just to give it away. I did it as a throw-in on my cart. I'm really pleasantly surprised by this thing. The ergonomics on this are really good. This closing mechanism is interesting. It's a little bit fidgety, for this closing mechanism. As you can see, it sort of gives it that multi-step lockdown. So it's not assisted, which is good but it still has decent action. It's got a deep carry clip. It doesn't scream Kershaw on the side, even though it says Kershaw. It's subdued. So I'm kind of psyched for this knife, actually. A $13 knife. Pretty happy with it. Next up is a Swiss Army knife. This is a Tinker. Most of you guys have seen a Tinker, so I'm not going to pull all the blades out. But I just wanted to show the wood scales are curly koa wood. These were custom scales made by a viewer, Stud Fishing. Stud Fishing, thank you so much for these scales. We worked out a trade where he sent me this as part of a trade for a knife. Now onto the fixed blades. You guys have probably been waiting a while for the fixed blades. Start with the Benchmade Altitude. This is a obviously skinny fixed blade. This thing is so thin, so thin, and it is very light. This thing is so light. You can wear it as a neck knife. You don't even know it's there. You can put it in your pocket. You know, the sheath fits very well in a pocket. So when I carry this, I am just carrying it in my pocket, and then I use the side of my pocket to pull it out like that, and I have it ready. It's great for a skinning knife. You can see that it has jimping up here, and it's got these, you know, spots on here to grip with these two fingers while you put this finger up here, and it's just going to be good for skinning that way. It gives you a little bit of jimping back here so that it can grip on the back of your hand like that while you're doing that, and also for your pinky back here when you're holding it like this. I wouldn't do repetitive cutting with it, you know, in the field in this grip unless you had to, because it is thin. It might wear on your hands, but otherwise it's great. And I don't think this is something you'd want to wrap in paracord because, you know, you'll lose some of the utility of it being so thin and flat. Next knife is the Pearson Custom Little Chief. This is a knife that I won off a Blade Banker giveaway. Don't usually enter a lot of giveaways on a lot of other knife channels. Want to give some other people a chance. But I saw that there was a Pearson Custom being given away. I've always wanted to check one out. I ended up winning, and I'm very happy about it. The fit and finish on this thing is immaculate. I mean, everything is so flush. So flush. Smooth. There's an acid finish here. I guess the biggest, you know, complaint I would have is there's a little bit of a, where is it? Up near the edge here, there was a little bit of an inconsistency in the grind. But, you know, on a hand finish knife, what do you expect, right? But this is just a great little EDC option. When you wear it on your belt, you don't even know it's there because it's so small. And I have to say, great job by Pearson. My favorite EDC fixed blade is probably my Bradford Guardian 3. So for those of you who haven't seen this, this is basically the way I carry it is in the Kydex sheath. I just have these two Chicago screws, put some Velcro on, and wrap it around the belt. That makes it easy on, easy off, and gives great tight retention so it's not shifting up and down. And this is the Wharncliffe version with the Nimbus finish and the 3D contoured OD green canvas micarta scales. This thing is just, again, great fit and finish on this. Just perfect fit and finish on pretty much everything Bradford does. It fits your hand like a glove, like this. And despite having a pretty decent sized blade, the handle's so short that this is a fixed blade that you don't notice you're carrying half the time. That's a full-size, basically, fixed blade. It's sort of a medium-ish, more than full-size, but it feels like full-size when you're using it. Very impressed with the Bradford Guardian 3. Now, that is the Wharncliffe version. It does come in other blade shapes as well. I think there's a saber grind drop point and a flat grind drop point. Next up, we have the Benchmade Fixed Adamas. It's wrapped in paracord here. This thing is way sharper out of the box than I thought it would be. I started using it in the field the other day. Sorry about that, I got a low battery notice. I started using it in the field the other day and was very impressed by it. It fills the hand a lot better than I thought it would, especially with the paracord wrap. The thumb feels very good right here when you're pushing through something. It has sort of the serrations on the back here. It's sharpened here and here. It has a nice crusher on the bottom, you know, to crush rocks or whatever you need to crush, wood, maybe skulls, who knows. But yeah, it's very, very nice tactical field knife. It is CPMD2 also. Next up, we have a couple other Benchmade fixed blades. We have the twins here, the Benchmade Puko and the Benchmade Lucha. These are both new knives to my collection, both 3V, and I'll go ahead and take them out of the sheath. This is the Puko. They have these Santoprene handles. They fit really well in the hand, very hand-filling. A little bit rubbery, well, not giving much any give at all. It feels like a soft rubbery, but then when you push on it, it's not soft at all. It's actually quite hard. But it works very well in the hand, gives you really, really good grip, and it is not a true Puko, zero Scandi grind. It is a flat, or basically a flat saber grind, but it just works so well. When you're using it, it has good bite into whatever you want to, into whatever you're using it on, and it's 3V, which is, it's something you use, it's a steel you use for toughness. So if you need a tough steel, you're out doing bushcraft or whatever you're doing, 3V is the way to go. Benchmade has been criticized for a soft heat treat on the 3V. I won't get into that. I'm not a metallurgist, but just be aware that that is a thing. You can do research on your own. I think the Lucha is quite nice. It's a little bit blade heavy because it basically is the same handle, basically the same size handle as you can see, with a longer blade. So it's a little bit blade heavy, but it gives you still plenty of control over all the parts of the edge that you'd want to use, like you were using the Puko. But it gives you a little bit more girth. So if you want to baton with this, if you want to cut other things with this, this one's long enough to do it with. And I think that was the whole point of them coming out with it. These both are full tang knives. The sheaths, by the way, are decent, but they do not have significant retention in them, and that is something to be aware of. Also, the stitching on the sheaths is fair at best. It's good-ish, right? It's not bad, but it's not as bad as the Tengu stitching, but it's not, and you can see, like, right here, the stitching on the sheaths is just, it's good, but it's not great. Fairish, Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at another knife. This is the Phobos Mini Tier 1. The full-size Tier 1 should be coming out at some point from Phobos. I don't know what the delays are exactly. Very excited to get my hands on a Tier 1 full-size. But in the meantime, this is a micarta and blue G10, I believe, liner knife. This is acid wash. This is CPM 154. I believe the original versions of this were made by Bark River. I think they found a different knife maker to make this second run of them. This is part of the second run, or it may have been Bark River. I'm not exactly sure. But the ergonomics on this handle are just ridiculous. The ergonomics are so good on this handle. My biggest criticism is probably the length over here between where your pointer finger is and where the blade starts. But a lot of that has to do with, this is made, Phobos is for operators by operators. So it's made for use with gloves in the field. So they have a little extra space for the finger choils. And that makes sense. I can't fault them for that. But other than that, this is a great all-around knife. I love this thing. And it has a convex grind, and it goes to work. It has a nice straight edge over here, so you can strike a fire steel with this back if you need to. It's a little bit harder up here because a lot of this is rounded off, but back here you can do it. Next up is the Bark River Bravo 1 Squad Leader. This knife is great in the field. Convex grind, big honking knife. Sorry, it's a little dirty because I was out in the field. But, big honking knife, mosaic pins, midnight burlap on it. Beautiful, beautiful midnight burlap. Came with a lanyard when I bought it because I bought it secondhand, but it was basically brand new in box. And CPM 3V, as you can see from Bark River. This is a polished burlap micarta. I would like to see it a little bit more matte, but that's personal preference. I don't really know what this finger choil is up here. It's sort of a finger choil, but it's also too small to be a finger choil. That's also a criticism I have of it, is either make a finger choil or don't really get that. But other than that, this thing will go to work. You can baton the hell out of wood with this. This thing is thick stock, and it's just, like I said, it's made to work. The sheath on it is also done very well. The stitching on this is great. The thread they use is high quality thread. Very nice. Next up is a new knife to my collection, the Bark River Gunny Scandi. Now this knife has been out of production for a while. DLT found two of these, just two, that they posted for sale. I bought one immediately. Not necessarily my favorite colors, but I had to get one of these in my hands. I like this a lot, this Gunny Hunter. This Gunny handle is great. Basically, it's a scaled down Bravo 1 handle, and the blade is a Scandi grind, or Scandi Vex grind. It's a convex Scandi, and this thing I've used to bushcraft a little bit already. Has been excellent at feather sticking, excellent at just doing notches and biting into wood. Very happy with this thing so far. Very happy I picked it up. This is the knife that, I forgot his name, but the guy from DBK, Dutch Bushcraft. This is the knife that he's been recommending for years. I think he recently, said he found one that he likes better, but for years he's been saying this was his favorite knife. And I can definitely see why. It's a great, great fixed blade. This is, again, gold flecked burlap, royal burlap with brass pins and yellow liners. Again, a very, very nice sheath. Very good, high quality sheath that's made. There is one issue with the sheath, which is this. Whoever stamped it didn't stamp it for quality control because it's way off center. But this is a great knife. Next up, you just saw the unboxing of this thing on my channel. This is the White River Ursus. Comes with this fire steel, very, very nice leather sheath, excellent stitching, excellent leather, matte, burlap micarta that feels excellent, nice mirror stonewash blade, an S35 VN, thick stock, just a burly, knife that has attention to detail, everything from really, really rugged 90-degree edge, here that could probably shave wood, to rounding of the same knife, or the same part of the blade. Not part of the blade. This blade is straight edged here and rounded here. That's great attention to detail. It's also rounded back here. You can really feel the difference, especially back here. And again, just great attention to detail on this thing. Also, like I said, the sheath on this is very, very nice. The retention on this is ridiculous. And it comes with the fire steel that matches the handle, natural burlap micarta. Now, that's it for basically my collection. I have a couple of other, I guess, counterfeit knives that were sent to me that I'm gonna do a video on counterfeits. I didn't buy them, but they were sent to me because people wanted me to do a video on counterfeits to fakes. I'm not gonna show them here, but technically I have them. There is also one other knife that I couldn't complete my collection without, I guess, which is a terrible knife. Every collection needs a terrible knife. So here's my terrible knife. It is the Sheffield, have no idea what to call this monstrosity of ergonomics, but it is a monstrosity of everything. It is a Tonto with a combo edge, with a liner lock, with big, thick, honking handles that are terrible for ergonomics, with a bit driver, with actual bits in the side that sometimes come out and sometimes don't come out. The action on it is horrid, as you can see. It's just a bad all-around knife, and look how difficult this is to get your hand around. I can't even close my hand around this thing. But every collection needs a terrible knife. This is my terrible knife. Thank you guys for watching my collection. I did not intend to spend an hour and a half going through these things, but that's what fast forward is for, right? Thanks so much for watching.